If you're an author about to do a school appearance, there are some things you should know to make it the best appearance you can. I'm a multi-time best-selling author. I've done lots of school appearances, but most importantly, I used to be a teacher, so I've got lots of really great tips for you. Now, the first thing you need to keep in mind is why you're going. They've booked you in for this time for a specific reason. You agreed to go to talk about a specific topic. We are not getting sidetracked. We're not branching off. We're not going to make this marketing if that's not what it's about. So you may be going to talk about your book. You may be going to discuss your book as an author because the class read your book. You may be going to talk about publishing or your occupation. You might be going to teach on how to write an effective story. And you have to keep in mind the age group that you are speaking to. Speaking to an elementary school is drastically different than a middle school, drastically different than a high school. So you have to keep in mind the age level you are speaking to. I'm a young adult and new adult and adult writer, but I have spoken to elementary schools. I have spoken to middle schools who are too young for my books. When I'm there, I am speaking about the basics. I'm talking about how to write retellings. I'm talking about how to write books. I'm talking about what being an author is like, but I'm not going above their knowledge level. So we're keeping it on their level, even if that's not the type of stories that we are writing. So keep in mind what the mission is. What is your goal? What is the conversation and the topic? And then keep it lined up with that. Now you want to make sure you're building in places for people to ask questions. It's not just you speaking to people. We talk about in the teacher world, you're not just this sage high on a mountain that people are just sitting at your feet learning and listening, and then they're going to do things. It has to be an interactive and engaged class. So if you're not speaking to these kids and allowing them to have conversations with you, chances are you're probably going to lose them. So you want to make sure that you build in places for questions or comments or engagement. You don't even have to have them asking you questions back in the entire thing. You can save that till later. But you have to have responses from them. So you're getting them to do different things. You're getting them to experience whatever it is that you're teaching. So if you are there to teach about writing, you're going to give them little exercises or you're going to ask questions. What do you think the answer to this is going to be? And somebody can volunteer an example, or if nobody's volunteering, and that happens, y'all. It happens. Nobody wants to be the kid in the class to raise their hand first. So you're going to have to encourage this. We talk about this with social media marketing a lot. You have to be the one to open the door and say, yes, I want you to respond. So if nobody's raising their hand, nobody's asking you questions, nobody's talking to you, give them easy ways to respond to you. Do you think it's this or this? You don't have to say, what do you think the most interesting part of writing is? You could say, do you think the most interesting part of writing is A or B? And then let them vote. They can even just raise up their hands. They don't even have to vocally say anything. But the more you do that early on in your conversation, the more likely they are going to be able to talk to you. You want to give lots of examples. You want to show lots of things for what you're doing. And if you have the opportunity to bring visuals, bring visuals. People love visuals, but don't rely on your visuals. Make sure you know what you're going to be saying and you're able to say it, which brings me to my next point. You must practice before you go. If you just show up and you're trying to wing it, unless you're really, really good at winging these conversations, meaning you've been a professional live streamer, YouTuber, person who speaks on stage for many years and you're very good at doing things on the fly, don't do that. Make sure you have points that you are going to go over. And make sure you're comfortable with them. So we're practicing. Sit down in front of your camera and try it. Sit down in front of your spouse and try it. Have your best friend come over and try it. You can try it out on a live stream. You don't even have to have people around. You can just jump onto a TikTok live stream or a YouTube, Facebook, Instagram live stream and just test out your material. See how it works. And if you are doing an expanded version of this where it's not just a one-time appearance. So for example, if you're doing like a writer's thing where you're going to come in for 4 consecutive weeks, we're having lots of hands-on engagement where they're going to try things. So if you're teaching something and you're coming back for more than one day, teach, let them experience it themselves, hands-on education, and then have them do a little bit of homework to bring back. What are we going over next time? Here's what we worked on this time. Here's what we're going to work on next time. And it doesn't have to be homework in the sense that you're sending things home, but homework in the sense of, okay, I just taught you this lesson while I'm here for the next 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and do this. And then the next time we're going to look at it. They can then refine it. They can tweak it. They can whatever if they want, or it's done because it was already in that class session with them. Now, another thing that I really want you to be paying attention to is, especially if you're being educational, I want you to understand that the teacher is there to teach something. You are facilitating an educational resource. So you're there to help those students learn something, whatever your topic happens to be: writing, publishing, occupations, real life, whatever. It can be even something like character development or world building. It doesn't even have to be something like big and major and overarching for their lives. I want you to go in there knowing that you're teaching, and then that teacher is going to double down on what you're teaching. So in order to help them, the best thing that you can do is go to the state's standards. Yes, the states have standards. They have educational standards where you can look up what that bullet point is going to be under. So as a teacher, back when I had to do lesson plans, I would have to go on to the state standards for the state that I was licensed in and I was teaching in. And I would have to go through those state standards, and I would have to find the section and the subsection, and each of them had a bunch of little bullet points, and I would have to have at least one of those things connected to my lesson. Now, sometimes the teacher will do that for you. You can work directly with the teacher and say, okay, well, which of the state standards are we trying to hit on for this? So you can make sure you have adequate content to cover part of that topic so that the teacher, when they're creating their lesson plans for this, they can say, yeah, this opportunity where we had this author come in to speak covered this point, and this point. Make sure you have some things where there are touchstones in your lesson that will cover part of those things. And it doesn't have to be the entire lesson. You're not teaching the entire thing, but you're touching on those things so that it's more educational, so that it's more beneficial to that author. And if they're not figuring that out, you can go figure that out. So go to the state standards, start looking them up for creative writing or whatever section you want it to be about, go look those things up. You don't even have to tell the teacher, but if you do, like if you walk in and say, okay, here's what I'm going over, here are the state standards that it covers, you will get asked back again and again and again. If you were helping them to do the work, yes. So tailor the conversations to the state standards because it really helps to allow you to come back and do more and more and more, and hopefully some paid opportunities in the future as well. Most school appearances are not going to be paid. You're going to show up, you're going to have the conversation, you're going to answer some questions, and you're going to be on your way. Now, like I said, some kids will ask you questions, some will not. I've had conversations where it's just me talking and trying to get them engaged. I've had conversations where they came ready for questions and I didn't have to pull them out of them. So make sure that you're showing up with some frequently asked questions. Know what people want to know. And what they want to know is the basics. It's a school, guys. We're not heavily involved in the publishing space. And so these kids are not going to know a ton. Answer the basic questions. So I want you to show up and I want you to have a really good introduction. Your introduction is incredibly important, just like it is for our books. We want to make sure that we have a good, strong introduction. I am a multi-time best-selling author. I write about, and this it depends, of course, on your topic. You can also start with a really great question. That's a good way to get them engaged. Do you know how much money most authors make in publishing? Ooh, we just got their attention, right? We got their attention. You might have to do a little research to find that one out, but have some way of hooking them in. It is just like that first paragraph of your book. You got to hook them in. And then you have to have a flow. You have to have a pattern that goes through the conversation that you are having. Know what you're going to say. You do not have this written out anywhere. Do not bring in a script. If you're reading off of a script, that's a problem. You need to know your bullet points. And if you have to have like a post-it note or an index card with your bullet points, that's okay. If you have a PowerPoint with your bullet points on it, that's okay. But try to know your content as well as you can so that you can have that conversation without having to look down at a piece of paper. Eye contact is also incredibly important. These kids want to hear you. They're not there because they don't. They want to hear you. And so making eye contact with them is going to be helpful. But do not be afraid that they're not listening when they're not making eye contact with you. People, especially kids, especially teenagers, they will look down. They will look down, but they will be listening to you. They don't always look up and they don't always make eye contact. So just because they're not making eye contact with you doesn't mean they're not listening and getting what you're saying. Please don't call anybody out for not listening. That is the teacher's job, by the way. If the teacher catches it, the teacher will handle it. That's not your job. And so you are there to have that discussion. You are there to be engaging. Make sure you are looking at the entire audience. This is public speaking 101. We are not just focused on one person. We're not focused on a spot on the wall behind who we're talking to. Know what you're talking about and then have the conversation with everybody. Draw them in. Make sure you are looking across the room at different places. We're not going to bounce back and forth like a pinball machine, but you are going to be looking around. Don't go down the line. and back up the line, that's weird. Make sure you're good public speaking skills. Study public speaking skills and lean into those. Again, practice, practice, practice. Now, another thing that you can be doing, and this is a conversation you have to have before you show up, is to ask the teacher or the person facilitating your appearance whether or not you are allowed to record it. Now, if you can record it, you are not showing the kids' faces, so you have to pay attention to where your camera or your phone is going to be located. Bring your own tripod, bring your own equipment. You are in charge. You do not show up and say, hey, can you film this for me? No, we're not doing that. That is not acceptable. Set up a tripod, set up your phone, set up your camera if you have prior permission, and ask them, where do you want me to put this? Where can I put this? And don't get the kids' faces. You do not have those signed certificates from parents saying that you can use their child's likeness. The school might, but you don't. So make sure you're getting backs of heads or you're doing it from the side so it's only filming you. And if you are filming it, microphone. Get a wireless microphone, clip it on to your outfit, and then film from there so that no matter where you're turning, where you're looking, how you're walking around the room, it will pick up your audio evenly. You're not going to have extra chatter. You're not going to have extra buzz. Even audio is what we need. So make sure everything's charged before you show up. If you're not allowed to be filming it, then you can ask the teacher, hey, can you take a couple of photos on my phone of just me? Doesn't have to be the kids, just me, part of the classroom. That way I can use it on my social media as an appearance so that I can say, hey, I do these things. You can bring me in to do these as well. We're thinking ahead about our marketing. So yes, you have to have really great content. You have to engage with your audience. You have to make sure you're drawing them in and answering their questions and that you're comfortable with this. So public speaking skills, work on those. Then you want to make sure you can market this after because you want to do this for more schools and libraries and other organizations that could potentially have you to have those conversations. Now, I do recommend if you're going to be doing this more than like a one-off in your career, that you have specific things that you speak about. I do recommend that you come up with 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different topics that you can talk about. And that's it. Focus on those. And then because you're focused on those 4 topics, so how to write retellings, an introduction to publishing as a new author, whatever other topics you want, just kind of think of the basics, the staples that people might bring you in for with libraries and schools, etc. And really hone your skills on that. So write out what you're going to do with your bullet points. Practice, 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 make it perfect. And then be able to build it out and scale it back in. So you can have this designed to be a 1-hour conversation in a classroom or in a public setting. And then you can build that out to be a 4-day workshop. You can build it down, you can boil that down to be a 20-minute conversation or a 10-minute conversation. Practice, 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 and know your bullet points. So we're going kind of into the sandwich part of public speaking where we've got our bread on either side of the sandwich, right? We're going back to elementary school, y'all. Which is our intro and our closing. And then in between, we have the different layers. So the meat, the cheese, the lettuce, the tomato, all of those things. And you want to know what the most important takeaways are. You should have 3 big takeaways from whatever conversation you're having outside of your intro and your wrap up. 3 big takeaways. Point 1, point 2, point 3. And you should be able to do point 1, point 2, point 3 in 10 minutes. If you have 10 minutes to speak, you should be able to do it with those 3 points, your intro and your wrap up. Then you expand from there. So you fill in point 1 and then set point A, B, C, right? We're getting bigger as we go. So have the main parts and then be able to facilitate that with stories, with extra conversation, with extra details, with extra facts. You are looking to lean into this to make it bigger or smaller as needed. And the more that you do this, the more you present this, the easier it becomes for you. And so then you can really market it to go to different places. Some places will pay you, some places will not, but all of them are good for getting your face in front of people. Now, I do recommend that as you show up to whatever presentation you are doing, you are going to be bringing some paperwork with you. We're not going to advertise you. Remember, if you're there to speak, they're probably not wanting you to pitch your book every 5 seconds, right? So have some paperwork, have little postcards, little bookmarks people can take, and just at the end say, hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I've got some bookmarks up here if you want to learn a little bit more about my books, or if you want to come hang out with me on social media. This is all of my information that you're going to need going from here. I do some really cool things that I'll take into schools. I'll take little magazines so they can see my different books. I will take postcards and posters and stuff. So I don't take a lot of like big display pieces when I'm doing public speaking things, but I will take swag that they can take home with them. Because why? When they leave, they're going to do what? They're going to look you up. And if they don't have that information, they're not going to be able to find you. So I like to do things with QR codes on them so they can easily scan them on their phone. I like to encourage them, hey, this will work in locations that are not schools. In schools, they're not allowed to have their phones out. But if you're doing it in like libraries or other public presentations, you can say, pull out your phone, take a screenshot of the bookmark with the QR code and all the information so you can find me later, just in case you lose the bookmark or the postcard or the whatever. In schools, say, as soon as you get out of school, take that picture so you do not lose it. And then encourage them to reach out. If you have further questions, if there's things you want to talk about, if there's things you didn't feel comfortable asking in class today about the publishing industry, but you would like to know, you can reach me on my social medias. I do live streams, my email's on my website. I'm more than happy to get those questions answered for you, so feel free to reach out. We're not encouraging minors to come hang out with us online. Okay, we're not necessarily encouraging them to DM us, but you can say, hey, listen, my socials are there and I do live streams all the time. Come ask in the comments, or you can shoot me a comment and I will save that for my next video and I'll get those things answered for you. So you're encouraging going beyond just that one classroom setting. Now, again, all of this should be in liaison with the teacher or with the school supervisor who is putting those things together. So different people are going to run different events, right? So you need to know your time limits. You need to know if other people are going to be there. You're going to need to know if you can do marketing content, meaning you can film things, you can take photos of things, etc., or if you cannot. If you truly cannot, by the way, if you truly cannot be taking any photos in the classroom or anything, take photos out in your car, out in front of the school, so that you can at least put them in your stories and say, hey, I'm at a school today, or I went to a school today, post it later so that like nobody knows you're at school while you're at a school. And you can use that to kind of market. And then if you have the opportunity to take those photos or those video clips inside of the classroom, get them on your social medias, get them on your website so people know, hey, I've done this before. It's also a really good idea to get a review from the teacher that you're working with. So if you're in a classroom or you're in a library or in whatever setting, at the end, say, hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you allowing me to come into the classroom today. If you can, give them a free copy of your book, a signed copy for the classroom or the library or whatever it happens to be. You can give out freebies of, any of your digital copies, etc., to the class, as long as you have prior permission for that. You can give it to the teachers. You can give it to the all of the teachers. It doesn't have to be just the one faculty member. It can be the entire faculty, whatever you choose to do. But then you want to make sure that you continue that conversation. I really appreciate you having me here today. I would love it if you would be able to give me a 3-sentence write-up about why you appreciated having me here today, or what you thought went really well for today, so that I can put that on my website so that other teachers can decide if it's going to be a good fit for them as well. Get that quote and then use their name. If you can use their photo too, that's even better, and slap it on your website. This teacher said that they enjoyed having me here in the classroom because we did X, Y, and Z. This teacher liked having me here because I brought examples, or because I brought lessons that they could do. Whatever they want to lean into, whatever you can lean into, is going to help you to advertise and market more. And the more you do this, again, the more likely you are to book in paid gigs. Sometimes schools will actually hire you to do special workshops and things inside of the classrooms. Schools, libraries, etc., will potentially hire you to do those mini workshops, and that'll be really good for you. So make sure you take things for the teacher's paperwork, but make sure you get those quotes too. And you can do it right on the spot. It can be something where you have them record it into a phone and then you'll type it out later on. You can ask them to email it to you, or this can be something up front. So when you walk into that classroom, say, hey, listen, at the end, I'm going to ask you for a quote on how today went so that I can put it on my website. If you think that this went really well, I would really like for you to be able to either type it out and just airdrop it to me, which kind of puts them on the spot a little bit. Or you can say, if you think this went really well, before I leave today, if you could just, in an email, just type up 3 sentences while I'm still here and just send it to me. That way, when I get home, I'll have it. I'll be able to put it on my website. You can ask for their picture. You can ask for whatever. And this just allows you to do more with your marketing. So there's a lot more that we can talk about. We're coming up to the 20-minute mark on this video, so I'm going to end it here. But your goal is to give 3 really good points for people to walk away with: knowledge and information about whatever topic you're talking about, the ability to expand or contract what you are doing to fit the time you are allowed. If you are working with other people, if there are other adults there who are also educating and speaking, make sure you're able to connect with them, draw them into the conversations, point them out, meet those people first so that you can have those conversations. And then you want to make sure that you're leveraging your marketing, you're leaning into working with those teachers. And if you have the ability to go look at those state standards and you can conduct yourself in a way that aligns with a couple of them, you're going to get asked back, because that is the way to do this. And then have, of course, that paperwork to send with people as you are leaving. They can pick it up if they want. If they don't have to. But that way they can connect with you later on, ask more questions, and potentially read your books as well. If you've got questions, go ahead and drop it down below. Again, multi-time bestselling author, lots of school visits, but also a former teacher. So if you have questions that I didn't cover in the last 20 minutes, now is the time to let me know, because there's so much more I could tell you about these presentations. But the best thing you can do is practice. Know what you're going to say so that you don't even have to look at your paperwork to know what point is coming next. Answer questions as they come up, engage with your audience, and have fun, because they will know if you're nervous and it won't go well for you. So make sure you're excited to be there, you're excited to have the conversation, and you are making friends in the audience as you are speaking and engaging and having the conversation, not the lesson, the conversation with your audience. Drop your questions. We will see you in the upcoming episodes as we help you to continue to navigate the world of being an author, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable and most stress-free year ever.